Faithful Responders consists of 2 deputies and 2 firefighters with nearly 40 combined years of service as first responders. Scotty, Jonathan, Clint, and Jacob invite you to listen as they discuss various issues that first responders deal with in their daily lives as well as on the job. The crazy schedules, training, mandatory OT, and the extra gigs provide little time for family, let alone going to or committing to a church. Their prayer is that this will be something used to help keep you encouraged and equipped in your faith. So sit on back, but don't fall asleep. Yes, that means you firefighters. And as always, stay safe.
What's up, everyone? This is Scotty B. I'm here with Jacob and Jonathan at Sam Bear Studio. And I was just going to introduce the next podcast that we're talking about.
I miss Clint, by the way. Where's he been at?
Clint. You know, obviously, I don't really know.
Smooth
You would think that a
cowboy.
fireman would actually know where he's at, but he doesn't because he doesn't talk to me either. You know what?
We can't all be awesome. It's okay.
He is pretty awesome.
He is.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
That's why I miss him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll invite him back.
He's just a terrible friend.
Oh, ow. Woo.
And
That's
not good
worse
at
than the
he's
awesome
not, he's not, let's be honest here. He's not good at commitment.
They were in a relationship once.
I guess well, that's true. I guess if we would have, thrown a pension and all the money Gwinnett's thrown in his lap, he might come back.
Golden child.
Good for you, Clint.
Golden child money. Must be nice. Must be nice.
Just get bleach blonde hair, and you can be called Sunshine and do whatever you want.
That's what I need. I need to bleach my hair.
I just need hair.
I need to just go. I need to frost my tips.
Y'all young guys are just killing me, man.
I need to frost my tips. I need a Justin Timberlake my hair.
Ooh.
Maybe. And
You gonna like tease it and get it like froish like his, like a little curly?
I have a fro. I already told you that.
You gotta grow that thing out.
I do. I have pictures. And now all the people listening are going to look up
No, do it now.
stupid pictures.
Do it now. You won't do it. No, I don't want to see your pictures. I want to see you grow a fro.
I'm not going to grow a fro.
Grow a fro. Let's do it.
I did in the past. I even used to mousse my hair to make it even curlier because I just embraced it because it was just ridiculous. Yeah.
Can you imagine like the Mouton Chia Pet?
I'm telling you.
It would basically be the Homer Simpson Chia Pet.
AKA Donkey Kick Face.
Anyway.
It kind of scares me a little bit. Scotty,
The fro made my head bigger too.
lead us into our topic.
Oh, yeah.
You're scaring me.
Anybody wants topic? Okay. Yeah, we decided what we're going to talk about today is something that I think a lot of first responders deal with. Something that I think a lot of them don't want to admit that they deal with, and some that do admit, and some that actually run from the service altogether because of it, and understandably. So today we're wanting to talk about fear. Obviously in first responding majority-wise, but also outside of it as well. So what do y'all think, guys? What's your idea of initially hearing the word fear?
Let's make Jacob talk a lot this episode. Jacob.
I'm down with
That
that.
doesn't happen very often.
So what do you think, Jacob?
I don't get an opportunity to.
You have such a profound thought. Let's hear it.
Not with you guys. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Fear. I think, like Scotty said, everybody experiences it. Whether you want to admit it or not, you deal with it in some shape or form. We talk about it I'm sure they talk about it in fire training and EMS service as well, but we deal with it in one or two ways, fight or flight, right?
Yep.
I think I think it's healthy. I think that you can have a healthy fear of something
Definitely two kinds.
because if you have a healthy fear of something, you're going to respond to it in a way that's going to save your life.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what comes to mind.
Healthy fear avoids carelessness.
Yeah. And I think you said it a few episodes ago, however many episodes ago, about having that fear avoids complacency.
Absolutely.
And complacency kills.
Yep. Destruction. Yeah. Yeah. Having a fear of the unknown is a big one. That's with everyone. Fear of circumstances, fear of judgment, fear of messing up, fear of falling short, fear of disappointment, and just this trepidation that people have with what can be, right? And also versus what ought to be, what they envision ought to happen, and what they're fearful might happen, and the possibilities, and they let that ride them. And it, especially in law enforcement, but I'm going to go ahead and say definitely for all first responders, for sure, it's going to be a physiological reaction that happens to your body. It's huge whenever it comes to stress and fear. Those are like two hand in hand right there, because you constantly fear you're gonna, it's gonna happen. You're gonna be stressed out. You're gonna be stressed out, and you're gonna have anxiety, and you're gonna have that could evolve into depression. And that short term depression can turn into chronic depression, just like anxiety. And we're getting into the weeds here, but I think it's necessary to say it's huge. It raises your cortisol levels in your body, that physiological reaction that you have to stress, which is, all just byproducts of constant fear of the unknown, fear of consequences of a world that is controlled by Satan. And the refuge for that fear, you find in God. You can't find it anywhere else in the world. You cannot find a cure to actual fear, real fear, a real cure. It may be temporary. You cannot find a real cure and solution to fear than in the world. You can only find it in God. You can only find it in prayer. That's a huge thing. Mm-hmm. You can't find it in alcohol. It won't take away the fear of what you've seen, maybe what you could see, the life that you have or the life that you may lose. Mm-hmm. It can't do that. It can't take away the bad guy. It can't take away the child that you may have to, do CPR on. It can't do any of those things on. It can't. The world will not take those things away. No. Only God can.
I'll be honest. Like the fear that I've felt in the fire service, I don't remember fearing anything that I've done physically. Like I've never feared going to a house fire. There's been times where I have take a second thought and I'm like, that doesn't look safe. But total fear. I've always trusted the people that are above me. I figured that, they've trained, they've been known, and obviously there's people in our apartments that I don't know if I trust them people. but the people I was blessed with to be under very good officers, very good people who knew what they're doing, had confidence. And so I never feared going to a fire. I've never feared, I've really never feared any physical part of my profession that I can remember. I'm not saying it didn't happen. The things that I've feared is that I might tell or do something, I might say something or do something that I think is right, and then it's not right, and then somebody did it and got hurt. Or it hasn't happened to get killed, but that's what I fear. And then telling somebody what's wrong and what's right and being wrong. I guess I fear the part of maybe not directing in the correct way. I've also feared when I first got into fire, before I even got into fire service, I got laid off, and I actually was fearful getting into the fire service because I was worried that if I was making the right decision or not. And you soon realize that it's kind of what Jonathan's saying is that we're always going to have those feelings. But what helped me get over all these feelings and what helps me really analyze the situation is when I, like we've talked about, praying and focusing on what the Bible says and what God says. That's what helps me get over a lot of these things. So physically, I've seen fear. I've been in fires before where I've seen somebody in their face piece and I'm like, that guy does not need to go in there and do that. That guy might need to find we need to put him somewhere else because he's not ready to do this. I've heard fear. I've been in house fires before where I've heard the guy in front of me, while I was pulling rock, and I hear the guy in front of me, like saying, "It's hot, it's dark, and it's hot. I can't see," and like that's scary too because it's like, wait a minute, he's the one in charge of putting this fire out, so we need to go ahead and make sure this happens. I've heard those things. And my thought process then when that happened was, it's fire and this is smoke. We can't see
The logical reaction.
We can't fight. We can't. It's gonna be hot. And,
Fire hot.
but I think a lot of that has to also come down to like training, and the thing is, if we do our job the correct way and we do what we're supposed to do, do 360s, walk around the house. Look where the fire is. Try to find the seat of the fire. Look at the smoke direction, smoke change. There's so many things that we can look at on scene to eliminate the amount of stress that could cause of injury or death or whatever. So, I fear things that are more of somebody else getting hurt rather than myself. I don't remember many times where I feared my own physical death or anything like that. I don't know about y'all.
Oh, I have. That was something big that constantly came up in my mind, over and over when I was first starting out on patrol was, what if I don't make it home at the end of this shift?
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, and as far as, security in my salvation of like knowing that I was going to go to heaven if I died, like that wasn't necessarily the fear that I was experiencing, but my thought every time was, I guess my fear every time was what's going to become of my family? Are they going to have somebody to take care of them?
Okay, so
and so,
yeah,
that what came into play there was, okay, I've got to trust God. I've got to put more hope and trust and faith in God to know that He is going to provide, for my family, that He is sovereign, even despite my death or whatever, He's going to take care of them.
Okay, so I do take in that aspect. I wouldn't look at that as a physical. I wasn't looking at that as like a physical fear. I was looking at that as more because I'm the same way. I do worry about
like worry. Yeah.
If something bad happens to me, my family. I worry about my kids being young, and how are they going to deal with that? Like what's going to happen to them? And I mean, are they going to have? I mean, obviously, you don't want to think about this because I don't want to think about no man being my wife. But
right.
but like, are they ever going to have a man in their life that's going to be there every day that's going to actually teach them the way that they should be taught, or teach them the way I feel like they should be taught? So yeah, I get that, but that also opens a couple doors because now you're talking about outside of the public service.
Mm-hmm.
Like I tell people, like I tell my wife all the time, I don't remember being fearful. I really don't remember being fearful much before I had kids. There's only one time that I can physically remember being fearful.
I can second that for sure. Yeah.
There's only one time, and it was we were going to Bell Mountain, and I had a Jeep Wrangler, and we were driving to the top, and I remember Megan and her brother in the Jeep. We're going up this rocky road, and my 4-wheel drive went out, and we started skidding backwards. And I was trying to like stop. We weren't really stopping. And I'm not playing with you. You can ask them. We stopped inches away from at least a 300-400 foot cliff. This is the scariest I've ever been in my life. The problem was, his was so close, and it was on an angle that I told Megan and Greg to get out of my Jeep, and we are so close to, because if I didn't shift gears fast enough, the Jeep was going over the edge. Like I couldn't get out of it wasn't to a point where we could get out of the Jeep. I had to get up that hill enough, and there's rocks there, so I'm thinking, oh, I might skid. I even had them take the door off. I told them, get out of the Jeep and take my door off, and to give me a chance to jump out of this thing if it doesn't switch fast enough, or if the tires go too fast. You know how to
a stick, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just super fun on inclines. If anyone's ever driven a stick,
But
your boy knows. I know.
So I'm thinking, dude, I don't remember. I remember being super scared, but I don't remember being like, I'm gonna die until I was able to do it. I was obviously able to make it. We got up a little bit, pulled my Jeep off to the side, and that moment is when I start, like, my body literally started, I mean, trembling, like, because I was like, oh my gosh, I literally almost died. And so, but besides that though, I don't remember, like, man, we used to do like rock jumping and bridge jumping and all these stupid things. I look back on it now, I'm like, I was such an idiot. And so, but
you were Superman, man. What are you talking about?
yeah, it was
Invincible.
Yeah, right. But
When did that change?
But the moment I held my first daughter in my hands, I've had a problem with fear, like to where it's a sin, because every day I fear, like I'm fearful that something bad's gonna happen to my family, especially my kids. When I see, one thing that helps me, I know it sounds morbid, but one thing that helps me get over all the dead people that I've seen is, if they're over like 40 years old, 45 years old, I tell myself, I'm like, you know what, at least they got a shot to, at least they got to live 40, 50, 60 years and know what life was about. Get over all those lies and anxiety and stress and crap that, high schoolers and college students think, where they think the world's over. And then you get out 5 years later, 10 years later, and you're like, that was so dumb. Like, the stresses then
absolutely.
were
We all
so
feel
crazy.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Everything is the biggest deal. Everything.
Yeah.
My world is over. Sally broke up with me.
Yeah.
And you don't get the experience. I think that.
But then,
is profound.
But then, so the thing is that you fast forward, and I say, well, at least I got to know what life was. But it's hard to do that with kids and teenagers and even young adults, because it's like, dang, like, man, they didn't even get to live, like, they didn't even get an opportunity. And so I'm always so worried and scared and fearful that something bad is gonna happen to my wife and kids, and I hate that, because it's technically a sin. Like, I'm not putting my trust and faith in God, and I'm not being faithful to Him taking care of my kids, and it goes back to that whole thing when I talked about in my testimony, to where when my wife and I lost our first child and my second child, I tried to take all that pain and all that burden away from everybody, and I tried to do it myself, and then I realized that that's wrong. Like, I should have given that to God, and I should have accepted people's help and all that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing. Like, I'm not giving it all to God, even though it's like we've talked about before. Our kids are like alone, like they're not even ours. I mean. And this is crazy. Like, it's God. They're God's. We're God's. He's the creator. He's the one that created us. And that's when I deal with fear hardcore. heart to where it does give me anxiety, but it's not fear of myself, it's fear of my family and my kids, and I hate that. Like I hate that I get to that moment. Like I'll text Meg, and if I don't hear from her, and I know she's supposed to be somewhere, and like, man, I'll start getting this like feeling, oh my gosh, something's not right. Like, and I hate that because that's just Satan kind of digging and trying to like,
I was just about to say it's all from Satan.
yeah,
It's all from Satan.
it's just terrible.
He wants to get that focus off of God, and
Especially when I'm
and-
on shift.
Yeah, and put it on. I mean, he wants to put it on ourselves or whatever. I mean, he wants to do anything he can to distract us.
I hate it.
And there's several scripture references that talk about fear, and talk about God driving out fear. So if we shift our focus there and put it on God, we can know and trust that fear will be driven out. 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love. Instead, perfect love drives out fear because fear involves punishment. So the one who fears is not complete in love."
That's convicting.
Yeah. And just a couple verses prior to that, we learn and read that God is love, and if we remain in love, then we remain in God.
I mean,
And it kind of goes back to the two greatest commandments, but
it does a lot. That's actually what I was thinking about when you read that.
so it kind of comes full circle there.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, man. And but I see that same kind of fear, and I think about like when I also talk about that kind of fear is like I think about like what about the people who don't believe in anything, like or a God, like in any God. I mean, don't even include our God, you know.
I think remember I was talking about that guy. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the guy I talked to not
Yeah.
so long ago went from talking about work to talking about God for like 2 hours straight. I was like, my goodness. And he was asking me question after question. You want to talk about someone that keeps you on your toes? That's some. I was like, my goodness. Okay, well, this. And you don't normally have people questioning you like that, right?
Yeah.
That's what kind of I was concerned because people like that, the fear is derived from nothingness. It's derived from a pointless existence.
Okay, crazy as that.
And you know that's a very, very sad path. You know, and really we should pray for people that are going through that path because what a lonely path that would be. Everyone that goes through that is lost and is trying to find their way, you know, and is convinced that, you know, it's the world is going to take care of them or that they have a meaningless existence, which is not true. And I am not fearful of a meaningless existence. I know that there is evidence all around me. It is so evident, so apparent, so obvious. And so my fear is not derived from a lack of a creator, a lack of design and intention that is perfect. But my fear is similar to y'all's, especially Scotty's. I fear something happening to my family. I fear it all the time. I still fear it, which is contrary directly to God's word, right?
Yeah.
And like you were just saying, the love, that's not true love because for God, because it's basically saying like I was talking about the driver's seat with the last one with the Derby car. You're not actually directing me. You're just in the back seat. I got this. I'm driving. I'm pressing the clutch. I'm switching the gears, and I know my direction. I don't need you, and so I'm not going to need you for my anxieties either, and for the senselessness of my of the fears that I have that are of the world and not of an existence that you are my God and my Father.
Yeah.
I agree. I do it all the time. And it is sin. I agree with Scotty. It's sin. I agree. And in law enforcement, I mean, in first responders, I mean, we do it all the time when it comes to a big one, I think, is a fear of messing up. Fear of messing up. Messing someone up. Messing up with helping someone. Messing up with the public, messing up with your job, messing up in court. Oh my gosh, that used to be the biggest one for me. I hated the stand. I hated it. Holy crap. I'm not kidding. I would literally have like, not panic attacks, but I would, pretty close to it. My heart is palpitating and all
Oh, it
that.
sucks being on a stand.
And like freaking out, getting red, getting hives in my neck, looking like, I'm lying whenever I'm just nervous about them thinking that I'm lying when I'm telling the truth. I wrote the investigative narrative. I know what it is. That's you write that? Yeah, I wrote it. I stayed up till 2 a.m. writing it. I know it's mine. But it's that fear that is, like you said, it's the devil. That's all it is. It's the devil trying to sway you away. You know it's the truth. And it is the truth because you are a peacekeeper by God, right? And you are doing the right thing. And because you're doing the right thing and fighting against the things that are of the world, you're fighting against the world, which is of the devil. The devil's going to do everything in his power to bring you away from that.
When it goes back to you're in court, you're fearful that you're going to say something that they can twist and turn things so much in court now. And so you're fearful of saying something that you don't even realize is incriminating in some way, even though you have no sense in saying the wrong thing, but they can take it and twist it and make dude, they used to do that with just simple signature on a blood draw that we used to do, and it was just ridiculous. This guy, I was sitting in court one time. This guy tried to get the case thrown out because the jury I wrote Scott Brooks on the blood draw form and signed it and everything. And the jury, the judge and everything, when it came to jury, they said, all right, this is Mr. Andrew Brooks. Could you come to the bench, whatever? And I went up there and the guy goes, this needs to be thrown out because obviously Andrew Brooks isn't here because I am looking for he goes, obviously we have Andrew Brooks here. I'm looking for a Scott Brooks. And obviously we don't have the right man. Yeah, how crazy is that? I'm like,
he's pulling for straws. That's what he's doing.
And then so the judge looked at me and goes, are you Mr. Andrew Brooks or Scott Brooks? I said, well, I go by Scott, so I write my name Scott Brooks and sign it Scott Brooks, but my legal first name is Andrew Brooks, so that's why you have Andrew Brooks. And this guy goes, doesn't matter. And the judge looked at him and rolled his eyes like, you need to proceed with your case. But I'm like,
in other words, chill out, bro.
But that little thing, something like that, and like if you say something, and so our cases with blood draws are usually like, vehicular homicide, DUI, where somebody was hurt.
Absolutely.
One of them was a DUI and had 3 kids in the back with no seatbelts on. He was driving drunk. I want that guy to go to prison.
Absolutely.
I want him to pay.
Yeah. So does the rest of society.
Yeah.
And so you have an obligation that you're fearful that you're not going to fulfill.
Exactly. And
Right?
you say something and then they twist it. And it's like, well, look, I mean, that happens all the time. Big cases. I mean, look at OJ. If you want to throw it out
That's
there.
a great example.
I mean,
so if you're out there and you have that fear, you can hear it, right. I mean, that fear is not just in public service. It's not just in first responding. It's not, because everyone has that fear. I'm talking about fear you won't get the loan, fear you won't pass the test, fear you won't get there safely while traveling. All of that, all of it, it's the same thing. It's all the same fear. It really is. It's the same anxiety. It's just in a different form for a different situation. It's all the same. I have it all the time. I fear my wife doesn't think I'm attractive anymore. Isn't that silly?
oh man,
I'm just saying, we're talking about fear. That's the truth, especially as a man. And you get older, you're getting into your 30s, and then when you get into your 40s,
Have I talked to you
at
about
least
that?
I still have all my hair.
I got half of it.
But he's got all the muscles. So he's got all the muscles. I still have luscious locks. We kind of balance it out there.
Hey, I'm hoping Jason Statham stays like really popular for a long time.
It's yeah, I fear that all the time.
Have I talked to you about that?
You have.
Okay.
You have.
That's
we
what I
talked. We
wondered.
talked actually a good bit about that.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
especially as whenever you're busy and you're getting into your profession. And Jacob knows exactly what I'm talking about. Especially when you're riding the car all the time for a living, it's hard to stay fit. You're right. You're exhausted. You go home. You're exhausted. Firefighters have it a little bit easier because they get to hang around and work out all daggum day. But it's whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do.
Yeah, they don't do anything else. But except for answer calls. But
I don't do anything when I'm staging for PD
hose dragging.
because it's usually it depends on the call. I'm usually waiting an hour for that, so I take a nap.
Jeez, stabs. Good thing we're SO. All right, so continuing on. But yeah, it's that,
I'm just kidding.
it's that fear. It's that fear. Besides myself, who looks like a donkey kicked him in the face, the rest of the guys are pretty good looking guys. I guarantee you ask them, they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm fearful that my wife, is not attracted to me, doesn't want to be intimate with me anymore, is thinking about other people. Maybe we're not getting along very often, or maybe, I'm not being a good father to my children. Maybe my children will resent me. These are real fears that extend beyond law enforcement. I've had all those fears. I don't know about y'all, all of them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've had them almost all at once too. Whenever you just have a
absolutely.
bad day and you're just riddled with anxiety, I've had it all. I've had it all where I'm just like, what is wrong with me? I need to just go work out or something.
Well, that's what's hard for us sometimes as first responders because you get a lot of that stress and anxiety from other people. Like you might go in that shift and not feel stress or anxiety, and you leave that shift and you're like, oh my gosh, that was a terrible shift. Like we ran all day, we saw terrible things. People blamed us for stuff. We saw this, we saw that, and you go home, and it's like you don't know how to deal with the fear that you have at home or the situation you have at home, so you neglect it. And with me, like literally, like 2 years ago, I like Mouton and I have talked about this. I think I mentioned it on here too, the podcast, is the fact that I literally felt like I wasn't attracted to my wife, like attractive to my wife anymore. And we can go into, it could be another podcast, but, I think that's one of the reasons why, like Solomon in the Bible talks about how you need to be intimate with your wife. You and your wife have to have sexual encounters and have intimacy. Because I told my wife, I said, no matter what the world says and what a lot of guys say and what TV says, when I'm intimate with you, it's the pleasure is awesome. Okay, it's amazing, but that's not the purpose of why God set up sex and intimacy in the marriage. It was fulfillment. It's way more than just a sexual desire. Because I said, yes, I desire you sexually. Oh, yeah. If anybody knows me, they know that I obviously desire her sexually because she is freaking smoking hot. But what I told her is like what you can get deflected and what you might not see sometimes is the fact that if we aren't intimate, and it doesn't have to be sex, but just intimate, like, playful or like just, words of whatever your love language is, basically. But like
Words of affirmation.
mine is words of affirmation. But if I don't feel that, if we get busy and we don't do that.
You look great today, by the way.
Oh, thank you. But if I don't feel that, I tell her, I said, it's nothing against you. It's not your fault most of the time. Most of the time, I blame it on you sometimes. But I feel like I feel like you don't find me attractive. I feel like I'm not fulfilling your desire. And then I start bashing myself and bringing myself down, and I start meditating on that. And then I fear like that I'm not good enough for you anymore. And then I start, and it's just a lie from Satan.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to that song that fear is a liar.
Absolutely.
Because
Yes. It's the
because
absence of God.
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. And when I have these conversations with her, she's like, "Are you like she?" To her, she doesn't even. She's oblivious to it almost sometimes because she's like, I had no clue, but that's why we talk about it a lot more because it's like, look, I'm not desiring sex from you. I mean, I love that part. Yeah, definitely. But what I desire is to know that I still do it for you. Like, I'm still attracted to you because you are my main desire. You are my main purpose. You're my main focus. If I can't make you happy or fulfilled or feel like I'm doing my physical, emotional, and mental strength for you, I feel like I'm not good enough for you.
Sure.
And that
Absolutely.
bothers me. And that's why I feel like the Lord says that,
Which
you
is
know,
it's nonsense in reality. From the outside looking in, it's nonsense.
It's-
right,
well-
but from the inside,
When
when
you-
you're feeling it, oh, it's so real. It's so real.
Oh, it's-
No one could possibly say anything. No one, you know, my wife even said that one time because I've had the same conversations with my wife. I know we all have. There's no way you haven't. If you've been married for more than 5 years, I guarantee you've had this conversation. But unless you're like, I don't know, get married at 18 or something. So it's what it is it's easier from the outside looking in. You say it's nonsense, but whenever you're feeling it, it's everything.
Oh, when-
it's you're riddled. It's everything.
when I step back, when I actually get it all out and talk about it and step back and look at it from the outside in, I'm like,
What's wrong
why?
with me?
Yeah, why did I feel that way? Like, and I tell Megan, I'm like, I can't freaking help it. Like, I don't understand it, and it
Yeah.
destroys me. It tears me down because I try so hard to do the best I can. I told somebody the other day, I said, I wasn't blessed with money or brains or, you know, the athletic ability to make millions of dollars and do all this stuff, but I was blessed to give myself. So I try really hard to do that for everybody around me, and most importantly, my family. I put them before everything.
Which you put so much of yourself, I guarantee you, your number one fear is rejection.
yeah, absolutely.
If with someone putting so much of themselves, you identify by that character trait.
And who would hurt me the most if I felt like rejected me, other than my wife? Nobody. My
Right.
wife.
Yeah.
So Satan, he knows that. So he, you know, you put these thoughts in my head. I've even had thoughts where I was like, man, what if she thinks this some guy that we know is better looking than me, and like she's attracted to that guy? And I'm like, I think about it later, and I'm like, that is like, why am I doing this?
And what if she did? So what?
Shut up, Jonathan.
But you know, I find
think-
myself in that way.
It all comes back to Jesus.
It does.
Because I'll just say this. I don't know if y'all know or read or listened to anything from David Guzik, but he's a pastor, I think, out in California, maybe. I hope I said that right. Anyway,
Is that the one that Russ references a lot?
maybe he might have. I'm
I've
not
heard
sure.
that name a lot. It might be from you.
Anyway, he says in his commentary over Hebrews chapter 4 that in order to put our trust fully in Jesus, we must first remove it from ourselves. Mm-hmm. And like that, I don't know about anybody else, but that hit hard with me. And I think it kind of relates to what you're saying, Scotty, is like
Yeah.
those thoughts that come from Satan that he puts in our heads. It's typically, you know, us beating ourselves up and, you know, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not, you know, but what I'm trying to say is that it ultimately comes back to Jesus. You know, if we're not fully putting our trust in Jesus, then I think those thoughts,
So-
that's when those thoughts can, you know, that's when it starts to become destructive, is when we're putting all that trust and weight and stuff on ourselves.
So, and I will say that when I go through funks like that and times like that, I always look back and I look at my personal life, like my praying, my reading the scriptures, my overall like faith and godly life. Mm-hmm. And during those times, it's always like not as good. Like I'm not reading the Bible as much. I'm not praying as much.
100%. Yep.
And then every time,
What do they say?
every
What
single
do they-
time.
Immersed in the Word.
Yeah.
I think is what I've heard
Yeah.
about that. Being immersed
Yeah.
in the Word.
Every time it's during that time period.
Absolutely. And the prayer too, because God's in your back seat.
Yeah.
He's not directing you.
Yeah.
You're not putting them. Not you. I'm talking about.
No,
in the
you are
instance.
You are talking about me.
I'm talking about any of us.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm saying is that literally, I get it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm nowhere near perfect. I mean, I know that God, a lot of times, unfortunately, I put that bench seat down and he gets in the back.
I got no room to talk, brother. hey, I tell you what, I had a boss that I didn't agree with a lot of things, and I mean a lot. We won't even get into that, trust me. And I respect him too much to put him on blast. But I had a boss, very good at his craft, hyper good. You've met those people that were just so good it was annoying.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what they identify by. But the point is, he used to say, and I'm applying this to other things, but he used to say, let's not what if it to death. Because we would be talking about criminal procedure. We'd be talking about, well, this is a bad dude who did this bad thing. How do we go about this investigation? How do we go about the interview? And how do we go about this? And he would always say, well, or especially with internal investigations, let's not what if it to death. Like, what if they did this, or what if they did that? What if this happened? It's not what if it to death. We're talking about criminal procedure, how to approach things. Let's not what if it to death. And that used to be so annoying to me, but it makes sense. That's where fear is right there. You're gonna what if it to death.
I tell my kids all the time. I said they'll say something else, not just kids, my ball players and whatever. And I'm like, well, thankfully we don't live in what if world, because we're worried about something that hasn't even happened yet, and it's so funny too, because we can be
of the unknown.
We can be hypocritical too, because we'll tell these people. I tell my wife all the time, like, who cares about what if? We'll figure it out. Like, why don't we just play it out? And then here I am worried about my kids that, like, what if they get in a car wreck? What if they, and I'm like, oh, dang, that's kind of being hypocritical.
What if, like you were saying, and I was saying, and probably Jacob was thinking, he just didn't say it. I'm like, what if my wife don't like me no more? What if I'm just getting her mad all the time and she's thinking about, divorcing me? Or what if, my kids resent me and they really just think I'm an idiot,
Yeah.
Which they probably do. They probably do think I'm an idiot.
Well, what's crazy is Timothy.
You're their idiot.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Donkey face idiot.
Well, what's crazy is in Timothy, God literally says that we weren't given a spirit of fear, yet we were given a spirit of power, love, and self-control. So, like, if you think about that, like, think about how much you use that power, love, and self-control. And it says we all have that. That's what our spirit is supposed to be. And yet, we have
I feel convicted already.
We've twisted that. We've twisted that into, like, look at our world now. Like, everybody has anxiety and stress and everything from fear, pretty much.
Say that again.
It's power, love, and self-control. Timothy, I think it's 1 Timothy. And it's like 1 Timothy something, but
I think I got it right here. 2 Timothy 1:7.
is it 2 Timothy? Okay, 2 Timothy. It talks about we don't have that spirit. We don't have a spirit of fear. We have a spirit and it's power, love, and self-control. And like, but we've totally let Satan and other people in general take that away from us. That's crazy.
Going back to 1 John 4:18, I just wanted to share this too. But Rebecca Gordon, in her commentary, she writes, Jesus began to be sorrowful. He was in a state of distress and depressed because he knew what was about to happen, his death for our life. But Jesus knew that God's love for him is beyond any fear that tries to come in. So if we can comprehend this, then we can trust in our hearts that God will not leave or forsake us in our fear. Romans 8:14-17. For all those led by God's Spirit are God's sons. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear. Instead, you received the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Daddy, Abba, Father.
Heavenly Daddy.
Yeah.
The Spirit himself testifies together with our spirit that we are God's children, and if children, also heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him. So because we believe in Jesus' sacrifice, death, and resurrection, we are called God's children. We can all call God our Father. He is there for us every day, and we have the choice to enter his rest daily, trusting every step of the way that his will is good for us. So why fear?
Well, what I got out of that was that he says we suffer with him.
Yeah.
Like, we don't suffer, it's with God. And if you think about it, I mean, heck, his son came here and suffered. And so, and think about that suffering.
And in addition to that, we're co-heirs with him
Yeah.
and glorified with him
Well, heck,
in
It
heaven.
could always be worse. God has not asked me to sacrifice any of my children.
Yeah.
And it could be so much worse. But you don't have to. In order to not be fearful, you don't have to constantly say and belittle your fear by saying, "Oh, it could be worse. I'm privileged." You don't have to go about that route. If it works for you, sure. But I mean, for a lot of people, it's probably not healthy. It's the root of the argument, not the what is contrary. And it's the root of it is what's not in God. Like you were saying earlier, it's not in love. It's not in the love of God that I'm fearful that something might happen to them. I'm probably
It's
absent
definitely
from prayer.
opposite.
Definitely the opposite. So I'm fearful that I'm not good enough for my parents, or I'm not good enough for my job, or I'm not good enough for this. Do your best and leave the rest.
There you go.
You got to. And if you're gonna do your best, you're praying.
Well, what's crazy too is that we live in a world of fear. And the most common, most known verse that I can think of starts out, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no
Psalms
evil.
23.
Like it's like crazy because man, almost anybody. That's like for all I've sinned and come sort of glory of God verse. Like you can go almost anywhere, and even people who don't believe in read the Bible or believe in God know that verse.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like a main verse, but it doesn't just talk about like fear. It says what's great about the verse is it goes on to say like when we walk through that valley of the shadow of death, and that's everybody. We're all going to go there. We're all going to get in that valley at some point.
Yes.
He doesn't just say you should not fear any evil and leave it at that. He says I'm going to give you the tools, that rod and that staff. They'll comfort you. So he's going to give us the tools to get through that. But yet we neglect that.
And I think
That's thinking about like
Yeah.
that'd be like going through some crazy area, like whatever, like and just saying, all right, here's this and this to protect you. Here's your shield. Here's this or whatever. Here's your gun, whatever. And saying, no, I don't want that. I'm just gonna go.
I think
Yeah, don't worry about it. I want it.
I think
Yeah.
it's perfect you brought that up. Perfect because it goes on to say one of the most instrumental parts of that quote, which I like a lot, is that you prepare at the table for me.
Yeah.
And that's literally saying that I am giving you all the sustenance and I'm giving you all the things that you need. You are already given it.
And he's already prepared us a place.
I've prepared you a place. I've prepared you what you need and what you have. It's there. So there can be, if I've given you the tools, you just said that. If I've given you the table, I've prepared a place, there can't be fear that exists in that. It can't. It's not. It's absent.
The only way we don't get there and don't get to that place he's prepared for us is by fear. Like literally us fearing is what provokes us from getting anything in life. Like almost everything we do, fear is what prevents us from getting there. Everything I can think of that I didn't take steps for, I didn't take that jump or that leap or anything, was literally because I was scared to do it. It's that, and it's more non-physical, like we said earlier, than it is physical. It's mental, it's emotional.
Yeah, 100%.
Big one. I think big one. I think we live in a time I think y'all were mentioning it earlier. We live in a time that's so riddled with anxiety about everything. Everyone fears the unknown. Everyone wants to live their best life. Everyone wants to, the whole
YOLO.
"you only live once" thing, blah, 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 you know. And what is it? What do they say now? What is it? The new generation. They say. Anyways, the point is that the obsession is on things and notoriety and privilege. Who's got the most privilege? Who has this over me? Who looks like this? Who acts like this? And that's why we have the anxiety about our wives. This is why it happens. Because otherwise, we wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we weren't conditioned by the world, we wouldn't. You know, but the thing about it is that I know that it's gonna be okay. I feel at ease whenever I pray about it. I feel a sense of serenity whenever I pray about it. I feel better, you know, and but whenever I'm not immersed in prayer, I can't.
Well, you talk about society nowadays, and a lot of people, the way that we're getting rid of our fear nowadays is either we ignore it or we deflect it.
Deflected. Yep.
Or
Absolutely.
then when the thing is if you ignore it and you don't let anybody else know, or you deflect it and kind of be defensive, no one can help you. And so, but you got to be vulnerable to do that. And we still live in a society where vulnerability is a problem. Not as bad as the early 1900s, you know. That's a lot of reasons why those guys committed suicide and why families were a little messed up, because there was no love. It was a pride thing. And so, but you got to be vulnerable. But the biggest problem nowadays that we have in all this stuff is we just deflect everything. And then the problem is that once you do that and nobody knows what you're going through, no one talks about it, and you don't want anybody to talk about it, and you just ignore it, especially in public service. Heck, that's why most mental health is because of we're ignoring the problem, we deflect it in some other ways, however that is.
Yeah, you have those, like Jacob was saying, those thoughts, those intrusive thoughts. That's what I was trying to think of. The new generation. I was trying to think of a second ago. Intrusive thoughts is what they call it. Oh, that just triggers my intrusive thoughts, or whatever the heck they say. That's what it is. Just like what you're saying, it's the fear, the thoughts, and if you don't take care of it, if you don't acknowledge it, how about that? Let's just go ahead and say acknowledgement, self-reflection, reflect yourself.
And that's a better word. I was saying ignoring, but acknowledgement.
Yeah,
is better.
acknowledge where you're at. Where are you at? Where you stand? How are you dealing with your issues? Everyone's got fear. I'm not any different. If you think you're special, you're not. Sorry. All right? We all deal with it. Yeah. We all deal with different ones, and we all probably deal with the same ones.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you don't, you're awesome, and you're probably lying. So that doesn't make you awesome. But talk to somebody.
Yep.
Community is huge, right? It's huge. I get to talk to these guys, not just on the podcast, you know, and but have community. You know, have community. You're not alone, and nothing. Remember, nothing is insurmountable. Nothing. As long as you have God, nothing. Without it, everything is going to be the big problem. Handle the small ones before you get to the big.
Well, and accountability is not just preventing somebody from doing something wrong.
Sure.
Accountability is also helping somebody if they are in trouble, or if they do have a need, or if they are having a problem, a mental capacity or something like that. I mean, that's just as much being accountable for that person as well.
Absolutely.
Is recognizing there's an issue and trying to find out if there's anything you can do to help that issue.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, y'all.
Be kind, rewind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get out of here. But before we do,
He's staring at him
all right, Scotty, listen.
so intently.
Hold on, listen before I open this segment up.
Like he was about to serenade him.
The last time that I asked for a health tip from Scotty, I asked for one health tip. You gave us 76 of them. So let's stick to one health tip, shall we?
Oh boy.
It's time for a health tip from Scotty.
I don't know how healthy I am, but I would say eat as much as you want. I know that sounds crazy,
Here we go,
but
what are these guys again?
But and this is why I say this, okay? Because if you're just doing a cardiovascular thing, you're gonna lose weight, but you're not building muscle. So if you eat and you do some kind of muscle training in some way and build that muscle, the more you eat, the more that muscle will grow and keep your metabolism up. The more blood flow, the more muscle you have, the more blood flow you have. And so that blood flow increases metabolism, increases losing fat, and makes your body work harder because you have more muscle. So if I tell people all the time, they say, what diet should I go on? What should I do here? What should I do there? I said, look, cut little things out that you know aren't healthy, but don't change your whole your whole aspect on anything, because any crash diet isn't going to work. You're going to quit it after a couple months. It's these juice diets and all this stuff. Your body has to break down food, okay? The more food your body breaks down, your higher metabolism is. So if you take in juices, your body's not working as hard to break food down. So your metabolism's not going to spike. It's not going to stay high. And so along with eating, building some muscle, because eating results in building muscle results in higher metabolism, so does eating. You will lose fat. Now, that doesn't mean go eat freaking McDonald's 4 times a day. But what I'm saying,
Dang it. Okay.
yeah,
Right.
but what I'm saying is just go out and try to constantly eat throughout the day. And when you look at calories, don't look at calories as a whole. Calorie counting is for people who just want to lose fat. But like I said, most of those people gain that weight back because it's not healthy. A calorie deficiency diet's fine for a little bit, but it's all subjective. So if you want to take in something, you got to remember, calories are also protein. Protein equals 1 gram of protein equals 4 calorie count of energy. So just add that up and make sure you're not just counting good calories and bad calories. Make sure you count your bad calories, but keep taking your good calories. There you go.
What if I'm trying to get a big butt?
Oh,
You already have one, dude.
Oh,
All
okay.
He already has. He's strengthening that up. It's fine. His gluteus maximus is great.
My gluteus is maximus.
Well, his quads are weak.
Weak quads.
ooh.
Just kidding.
At least my brain's not.
Well, that's why I became a fireman, you dummy.
But for real though, that reminds me, I haven't eaten all day. I'm really hungry right now. Like my stomach was growling as
Oh,
you were
man.
talking about that. Oh, great tip, man.
Should have brought
Seriously.
your protein shake like I did.
I should have.
I'm not hungry.
I'm weak.
Well, let's get out of here so we can eat.
Heck
All right.
yeah.
Thanks for listening. Like Mouton said, find somebody to talk to. Get those fears off your chest.
Yep.
Talk through it and work through it. You're not alone. We all struggle with it. So, and please reach out to us if you want to. You can reach us at respondcommunity@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook or on our Facebook page, Faithful Responders. But that's it for now, y'all. Y'all have a great, safe day. Stay safe out there.
Stay breezy.
Peace.